There is an old saying from World War II about the American soldiers stationed in Britain. The British used to say the G.I.s were three things: overpaid, oversexed, and over here. Hi, I'm Ray. My great-grandfather was a Seabee construction soldier stationed in East Anglia in 1943, and he told me that the war against Hitler was tough, but sometimes the war to get a cold beer on a Saturday night was even tougher. You see, when 1.5 million American men suddenly landed on a small island, roughly the size of Oregon, friction was inevitable. We had different accents, different money, and very different ideas about class. The British Army ran on tradition and hierarchy. The American Army ran on caffeine and attitude, and nothing sparked a conflict quite like a British pub telling a tired American GI that he wasn't fancy enough to enter. Today on G.I. Stories, we are going to tell the legendary tale of a group of American construction workers who were told they could undrink at a local pub. They didn't argue. They didn't fight with their fists. They simply went back to base, started up a 20-ton Caterpillar D8 Bulldozer, and decided to give the pub an open-concept renovation. Chapter 1. The culture clash. To understand why someone would drive a tank-sized tractor through the front door of a bar, you have to understand the atmosphere of 1943. This was the friendly invasion. Before D-Day, England was essentially a giant aircraft carrier. Every village, every town, and every farm seemed to have an American base next to it, and the cultural difference was shocking. The average British soldier, the Tommy, was paid about 14 shillings a week. The American GI was paid nearly 5 times that amount. Suddenly, these Americans arrived with pockets full of cash, nylon stockings for the ladies, and endless packs of Lucky Strikes. But the battlefield for this culture war was the pub. For the British, the pub was a sacred church of silence and warm beer. There were strict social rules. There was often a public bar for the working class and a saloon bar for the officers and the gentry. Americans didn't understand this. In the US, if you had $1, you bought a drink. It didn't matter if you were a private or a general. So, you had loud, rich Americans crowding into small, quiet British pubs, complaining that the bio was warm P***, SS, as my grandfather called it, and flirting with the local women. The British MPs and the local landlords started cracking down. Signs started appearing: locals only, officers only, or simply nitrogen monoxide Yanks. For a regular infantryman, this was annoying, but for the Seabees, the Naval Construction Battalions, this was an insult. And you do not want to insult a Seabee. Chapter 2. The men who built the war. Let me introduce you to the protagonists of our story. declassified. Their motto was construmus, batumus, we build, we fight. And they took both parts very seriously. Unlike the 18-year-old kids drafted into the infantry, the Seabees were older. They were recruited from civilian life because of their skills. These were blacksmiths, steelworkers, bulldozer operators, and dynamite experts. The average age of a Seabee was 37. These were grown men who had spent their lives building skyscrapers in New York and dams in Colorado. They were tough. They were Union men, and they had zero patience for military bureaucracy. In England, their job was to build the airfields for the B-17 bombers. They worked 16-hour shifts in the freezing rain, paving runways so the Air Force flyboys could land their planes. They were tired, they were dirty, and they felt underappreciated. While the pilots got the medals and the glory, the Seabees got the mud. So, imagine the scene. A Friday night in rural England. A group of these exhausted, middle-aged construction workers just finished a 12-hour shift pouring concrete. They are covered in cement dust. They are thirsty, and they head to the only light in the village, the pub. Before we get to the confrontation, I have a quick question. If your work had 12 hours in the rain, what drink would you order? A warm beer or a whiskey? Let me know in the comments. And while you are there, smash that like button and subscribe to G.I. Stories. We are trying to build this channel as fast as the Seabees built an airstrip, and we need your help. Done. Okay, let's get back to the bar fight. Chapter 3. The denial, the story, goes on. Versions of this story exist from Norfolk to Devon. Tatai squad of Seabees parked their jeep outside a quaint little establishment. Let's call it the Royal Oak. Taywalt, in boots, caked in mud, voices loud, looking for a pint. But the Royal Oak had a new policy that night. Maybe the landlord was tired of broken glasses, or maybe the local British military police were inside having a quiet drink with some US Air Force officers. The bartender, or perhaps a snooty MP with a red armband, stopped them at the door. "Not tonight, lads. This is a respectable establishment. Officers only tonight. Or perhaps, we don't serve grease monkeys here. Go find a canteen on base." Now, remember who these men are. They are 35-year-old steelworkers from Pittsburgh and Chicago. Being told by a young MP or a fancy landlord that they are UND good enough to spend their money, that didn't sit well. One of the Seabees, a master chief with hands like shovels, probably tried to reason with him. "Look, buddy, we just build the runway that protects this town. We just want one beer." The answer remained no. They were ejected, kicked out into the cold English rain. Inside, they could hear the laughter of the officers and the locals. Most soldiers would have just grumbled, gone back to the barracks, and smuggled in some moonshine. But Seabees are problem solvers. And to a Seabee, a locked door isn't a barrier. It's just a demolition project. Chapter 4. The beast wakes up. They drove back to the base in silence. The anger was simmering. When they got to the motor pool, they saw their tools of the trade, specifically the Caterpillar D8 Bulldozer. This wasn't a garden tractor. The D8 was a 20-ton monster used to level forests and push mountains of earth. It had a cable-operated blade that looked like the jaw of a robotic dinosaur. It was loud, it was slow, and it was unstoppable. One of the Seabees looked at the D8. Then he looked at his buddies. He didn't have to say a word. Starting AD8s in the 1940s was a ritual. You had to start a small gas engine first, the pony motor, which then cranked the massive diesel engine. The diesel engine roared to life, spitting black smoke. The ground shook. They climbed aboard, not just one man, but the whole squad, hanging off the sides like pirates on a ship. They drove out of the base. The D8 top speed was about 7 miles per hour. It was a slow, creeping vengeance. The metal tracks clattered on the cobblestone roads of the English village, waking up the cows and the sheep. Chapter 5. The renovation back at the Royal Oak. The party was in full swing. The fire was crackling. The officers were toasting. Then, the glasses on the table started to vibrate. It started as a low rumble. Then it sounded like a tank division was passing by. The conversation stopped. The landlord looked at the window. Outside, the Master Chief lined up the D8. He didn't want to hurt anyone. Seabees are precise. He just wanted to make a point. He dropped the clutch. Crash. The blade of the D8 didn't knock politely. It tore through the front wall of the pub like it was made of paper. The front door, the charming bay window, and part of the brick facade crumbled inward. The bulldozer stopped. The engine idled, a deep, mechanical growl filling the silent room. Dust and debris covered the fancy officers' uniforms. The night air rushed in through the massive new hole in the wall. The operator leaned out from the cab, looked at the terrified landlord standing amidst the rubble, and calmly shouted, "Is this open enough for us now?" Or, in another version of the legend, he simply asked, "2 beers, please, and keep 'em cold." Chapter 6. Legend versus reality. Now, did they actually get served? Probably not. The military police swarmed the place. The bulldozer was reversed out. There was hell to pay. In reality, incidents like this, though maybe not always with a bulldozer, happened frequently. There are records of jeeps driven through fences, gates rammed by trucks, and massive brawls known as the Battle of Bamber Bridge or the Battle of Brisbane. The men involved in the bulldozer incident likely lost rank. They probably spent months in the stockade peeling potatoes or breaking rocks. They might have been docked pay to repair the pub. But here is the twist. The locals, they loved it. The working-class British villagers, who had also been kept out of the fancy areas of the pubs for years by their own class system, found it hilarious. The story of the Yank who drove a tank into the pub became local folklore. It broke the ice. It showed that the Americans weren't just arrogant invaders, they were anti-authority rebels, just like the local coal miners or farmers. Conclusion: a few months later, those same Seabees loaded their bulldozers onto ships. They crossed the channel to Normandy. Under heavy fire, they used those same D8 bulldozers to clear the beaches, fill bomb craters, and pave the way for the liberation of Europe. They might have been rowdy drunks who destroyed a pub, but they were also the men who built the road to victory. The friendly invasion wasn't always friendly. It was messy, loud, and full of fistfight. But when it mattered, when the ramp dropped on D-Day, the guy who smashed the pub and the guy who kicked him out fought side by side. What do you think? Was the bulldozer response justified? Or was it too much? If you were denied a buyer after a 12-hour shift, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss that. This is Ray, signing off. Keep your powder dry.